Section 4 of The Tosa Diary by Kino Tsurayuki, translated by William N. Porter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Avai in July 2012. 2nd March, 25th day. The ship's officers said the north wind was unfavorable, so the boat did not start. There were many reports going about that the pirates were actually in pursuit. 3rd March, 26th day. Can this really be true? As they say the pirates are in chase, the boat is not to start before midnight, and offerings are to be made while rowing. The steersman accordingly offered prayer papers, and as these fluttered away to the east, he prayed, "Graciously allow our gallant ship to be rowed with all speed in the direction taken by these prayer papers." Footnote: These nusa, or gohei, as they are generally called now, are pieces of white paper cut in a particular shape. Originally they represented votive offerings of pure white silk or cloth, and they are generally to be seen at Shinto temples. End footnote. On hearing this, a child made the following verse: "To the deep sea god, he who rules the ocean road, make we now our prayer. For these flying nusa, pray, may the breeze not die away." This was her verse. As the wind was fair at the moment, the steersman was proud and happy in hoisting sail on the boat, and the women and children, as they heard the sound, were delighted, for they thought that now they would surely arrive sooner or later. Among them all, one called the matron of Awaji composed this. Footnote: This is one of Tsurayuki's attendants, possibly his housekeeper, who was, no doubt, a native of Awaji Island. End footnote. When the kindly breeze follows up behind the boat, fast we speed along. As we hoist the sail with glee, happy and content are we. And at the same time she prayed for fine weather. 4th March, 27th day. The wind blew, the waves were rough, and the boat could not start. They were all complaining dreadfully, so the men, to cheer up their hearts, composed a Chinese poem, to the effect that the capital was further away than the sun itself, and on hearing it a certain woman composed this: "In the sky the clouds ever nearer seem to draw, e'en the sun as well, but the capital today still seems very far away." To this a certain personage replied, "Loud the tempests roar, not an instant dying down as we travel on, and our road across the sea ever longer seems to be." All day long the wind did not drop, so he snapped his fingers and retired to rest. Footnote: To snap the fingers was to ward off bad luck, in this case in the hope of making the wind die down. End footnote. 5th March, 28th day. The rain did not stop all through the night, nor in the morning either. 6th March, 29th day. The boat set out and the sun shone brightly as they went on rowing. Noticing that his nails had grown very long, he counted the days and found that it was a day of the rat. They must not be cut. Footnote: Instead of our week, the Japanese used to use the Chinese 12-day period, each day being called after one of the signs of the zodiac, of which the rat was the first. The first rat day of the year, or ne no hi, was always kept as a holiday, when the proper thing to do was to go out and pick the fresh green sprouts of early spring, and pull up young pine tree shoots to ensure a long life. End footnote. As it was the first month, they chatted about the day of the rat in the capital, and wished there were some young pine trees for them to pull up, but as they were out at sea, such things were hard to find. A certain woman wrote this verse. Is it really true that today is ne no hi? Were I a fishwife, I would dive down through the brine and pull up the salt sea pine. Footnote. Umimatsu, literally sea pine, is a name for coral. The idea is that a fisherwoman, being on the sea for the Day of the Rat, would do the best she could to pluck up a young pine by diving for coral. Sea pine. End footnote. Those were her words, but how can one write a Day of the Rat verse at sea? A certain personage replied with this. Though this is the day, yet we cannot pick the greens on Kasuga Moor. Never were they known to grow on the shore past which we row. They went on rowing while he was reciting this. On the boat approaching a delightful spot, he asked what place it was, and was told it was called Tosa stopping place. There was a woman on board who had once lived in the land called Tosa, and she said that in past days she had known a place of that name, but only for a short time. To express her regret for it, she composed this verse. Musing on the name of the place where once I lived for a year or so, billows rowing in from sea come to sympathize with me. 7th March, 30th day. The wind and rain had stopped, and so, hearing that the pirates never travel by night, the boat set out to cross the Awa Channel at midnight. It was so dark that they could not see which was east and which was west, but men and women prayed earnestly to the Shinto and Buddhist gods, and so the dreaded channel was crossed in safety. It was not till the hour of the tiger or the hare, 4 or 6 a.m., that they passed the Isle of Nujima, crossed the mouth of the Tanagawa, and, hurrying on as fast as possible, reached the Sea of Itsumi. That day there were no waves upon the sea, thanks to the blessings vouchsafed by the Shinto and Buddhist gods. Up to date, the days passed on board ship amounted to 39 days. Now that they had reached the land of Itsumi, there was no further question of pirates. 8th March, first day of the 2nd month. Rain fell in the morning and stopped only at the hour of the horse, noon. Passing through the Sea of Itsumi, they rowed on. Just as yesterday, no wind-tossed waves were visible at sea. They passed the pine forest on Black Head. The name of the headland was Black, the color of its pines green, the breakers upon the shore white as snow, and the tint of its shells pink, so that only one color was wanting to complete the 5 primary colors. Footnote. The 5 primary colors, according to the Japanese, are black, white, red, blue or green, and yellow. End footnote. That day the boat was towed by a rope from the place named Casket Beach, and while traveling thus a certain personage composed this. Not a ripple breaks on the shore at Casket Beach, fair as jewel box. Could the brightest looking glass such a sea as this surpass? Once again the passenger spoke, lamenting that the voyage had lasted into this month, and for the many hardships they had endured, to which the others agreed. Out of the fullness of his heart he recited this. Though the days in spring grow as long as is the rope used to tow our boat, 40 days we've spent, maybe 50 days, upon the sea. People who hear this will say to themselves that this kind of stuff is very poor. But the passenger produced it with a good deal of difficulty and thought it pretty good, so they should stop whispering such cruel things about it. But suddenly the wind and waves got up, and so they had to stop talking. 9th March, 2nd day. The wind and rain did not cease. For a whole day and night they prayed to the Shinto and Buddhist gods. 10th March, 3rd day. Out at sea it was just like yesterday, so the boat did not start. The howling gale did not abate, and the waves dashed up against the cliffs and drew back again. Noting this, he composed the following: Fast my teardrops fall, but to twist a silken thread surely would be vain. Who could thread up pearls so frail? All my skill would not avail. Footnote: Tama means a pearl or jewel, or when used with namida, tears, it means teardrops. This verse is a play upon the double meaning. If only his teardrops were real pearls, he would preserve them by stringing them on a thread. End footnote. And thus the day drew to its close. 11th March, 4th day. The steersman said that the wind-blown clouds looked very threatening today, so the boat did not set out. However, the wind and waves did not get up the whole day long. This steersman was not always right in his forecasts of the weather. Beautiful shells of many kinds and pebbles were plentiful on the shore where they camped, and with reference to them, somebody belonging to the ship composed this verse in memory of one who was much loved. Hear the breaking waves come and go as I lament for my darling child. Stooping I to bid farewell, pick up a forgetting shell. Footnote: Wasuregai, literally forgetting shell, is a black and gray clamshell, often mentioned in old Japanese poetry. Its signification is the exact opposite of our forget-me-not flower. The writer of this verse is supposed to have been Tsurayuki's wife, the mother of his dead child. End footnote. Such were her words, but a certain personage, unable to bear it any longer, composed this, to give heart to the others in the ship. Here no more will stray seeking for forgetting shells, but a dainty pearl, pure and white, might serve to tell of the child we loved so well. Thus he spoke in memory of his little daughter, for a parent is apt to become very childish. Some may object that she was not like a pearl. Be that as it may, the child is dead, and it is no empty compliment to say she had a beautiful face. A certain woman composed this verse in grief at the number of days spent in the same place. Long we've soaked our hands in Itsumi's icy spring, dreading not the cold. Here though many days we waste, 'tis a spring we never taste. Footnote: This is a play upon the word Itsumi, the name of the province on whose shores they were camping, which means a spring of water. End footnote. 12th March, 5th day. This day, with difficulty, they hastened on through the sea of Itsumi to the stopping place of Otsu. To his eye the pine forests seemed never-ending, everything seemed to have gone wrong, and he composed this: Though we speed along, yet the pine trees on the cliffs never seem to pass. Long as thread is Otsu's strand, spun out by a maiden's hand. At these words, and while they still travelled on, the steersman called to the sailors to pull hard, for the weather was about to improve. On this gallant ship my command must be obeyed. This is what I say: ere the morning north wind blow, get the ropes ashore and tow, said he. The poetic form of these words was quite unintentional on the part of the steersman, and, on being appealed to, he said he did not mean it for a verse, but, on putting into writing the queer poetical sentence, the man was heard to say, there proved indeed to be just over 30 syllables, that is, 31 syllables. This day everyone prayed all day long that the waves outside might not arise, and in answer to their prayers the wind and waves did not get up. Soon they arrived at a place where flocks of seagulls sported about, and, in an excess of joy at getting so near the capital, a child composed this: Though the wind has dropped, for the gods have heard our prayers, in my dizzy brain swooping seagulls look to me like the ever-surging sea. While she recited this, they travelled on. The pine forest at a place called Iwatsu was very beautiful, but the shore seemed interminable. Once more, as they rode past Tsumiyoshi, a certain personage composed this: Suminoye's pines, as I watch them, seem to me younger far than I. I shall vanish from the scene, but the pines are ever green. Footnote: Suminoye and Tsumiyoshi are one and the same place. End footnote. And here the mother of one now gone, whom she never forgets for a day or even for a moment, urge the boat along on to Suminoye beach, for I long to pick some forgetting grass, to see if it will come true with me. Footnote: Wazureguza, forgetting grass, is an old word for reeds or rushes, which seem to have grown in great profusion about Naniwa and Suminoye. The name is used in the same sense as the forgetting shells mentioned in the entry for the previous day. End footnote. This she said not because she wished to forget really, but she hoped that her sorrow might find some short relief, in order that her love might return stronger than ever. With these words, then, they travelled on, while still gazing at the prospect. But suddenly the wind arose, and, though they rowed hard, they drifted quickly astern and nearly capsized, when they must have all been lost. The steersman said, "This holy deity of Sumiyoshi is a well-known god, and he desires some gift." How like everybody else! Someone suggested that nusa should be offered, and so accordingly an offering of prayer papers was made. But, though it was done chiefly for the wind to abate, it began to blow harder than ever, and the waves rose accordingly, so that they were in great danger. Then the steersman spoke again and said, "As the august heart of the god has not been moved by the prayer papers, the gallant ship cannot proceed. In making an offering, therefore, something should be presented that will be thought of value." Accordingly, what was to be done? He had 2 eyes, but could offer only 1 mirror, so to his deep regret it was thrown into the sea. Footnote: The old Japanese mirror was made of bronze with a highly polished face, and a back generally elaborately decorated. End footnote. Well, immediately the scene became as calm as the looking-glass itself, and a certain personage composed this: In the raging sea I have cast my looking-glass, and the gift's result shows the partiality of the awful deity. Verily there are no gods as kindly as the forgetting grass of Suminoye, or the delicate pines upon its cliffs. Plainly in the mirror could his eyes see the august heart of the god, which was remarkably like the heart of the steersman. Footnote: This sly cut at the steersman shows that Tsurayuki, who was genuinely distressed at the loss of his mirror, was skeptical about the god of Suminoye. End footnote. End of section 4.